What's going on, Grid? Welcome to another episode of the Lockdown Podcast. I'm your host, TFA. As we reach the midway point here on the season, things are beginning to shape up much differently than they did last year. In the AFC, we see the AFC East, which this year has two teams who look strong up until this point. You have the Jets, who sit at 7-1 and are led by rookie quarterback Noah Skelton. Skelton missed all of the preseason and the first 2 weeks of the regular season, but since coming back, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's compiled a QB rating of 109.6, which currently is good for third in the league among qualifying quarterbacks. Behind the Jets in the AFC East, we have last year's division winners, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills currently sit at 6-2 and are led by a great rushing attack. Running back Lance Dunbar is currently fifth in the league in rushing yards. He's second in yards per carry among active running backs with at least 50 carries. He's sitting at 6.2 yards per carry. Dunbar has never had a season above 150 rushing yards in his 6-year career, so these numbers are a major part of why these Bills are winning games. The AFC East winner last year finished at 7-9 and limped into the playoffs, so this year it looks like we're going to have two teams that can really compete for a playoff spot and one of the top seeds in the AFC. The AFC North is a complete turnaround, as last year this division had four teams who could have potentially finished above 500, while this year all four teams could potentially finish below 500. The division as a whole has only won 6 games combined between the four of them against the rest of the league outside of the division. They've only won 12 games as a whole, so that's half their games right there. The Ravens are in the driver's seat at 4-3, but this is a race that can turn around real quick when all these teams have such low records. Watch out for the Browns, who currently sit at 2-6, but are under new ownership, and they're really looking to change a losing culture into a winning one over there. Every quarterback in this division is currently outside of the top 10 in QBR. Every running back is outside the top 10 in yards, and only 5 wide receivers from the AFC North are in the top 50 in yards. So this is definitely a division where the offense doesn't seem to be winning many games. A couple of bright spots in the division. Browns rookie linebacker Solomon Stevens currently leads the league with 2 defensive touchdowns. In addition, he also has a safety, a forced fumble, an interception, and 3 sacks, so he's really filling up the stat sheet in his rookie year. I think he's definitely showing that he has the potential to be a great linebacker in this league. Antonio Brown is doing Antonio Brown-like things. He currently sits second in receiving yards with 873 yards so far in the season, and he's the sole bright spot on offense for this entire division. Heading over to the AFC South, we have 3 teams that are not only in contention for the playoffs, but also in contention for the number 1 seed. The Jaguars, the Texans, and the Titans all sit at 8-0, 7-1, and 6-1 respectively. The Jags are the clear favorite to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Their offense and defense are both the best in the league right now. They've scored 260 points on offense, and they're only allowing 88 points so far this year. They have the top quarterback in the league. They have one of the top running backs in the league. It really almost seems like this team is unstoppable. You can't stop their offense. You can't figure out the defense. I don't really know how teams are going to beat this. The Texans right now, they're an offensive juggernaut, and even though their defense has allowed 171 points so far, they force a ton of turnovers. They have 2 guys right now that are in the top 5 in the league in interceptions. This offense is led by a ferocious running game. Lamar Miller, he currently leads the league in rushing attempts, yards, and touchdowns halfway through the season, and he's only 75 yards away from the century mark already. The Titans aren't putting up any crazy offensive numbers, but they're staying away from the turnovers, and their defense is winning them games. This is going to be a really tight race as the season progresses. The AFC West, much like the AFC North, sees 4 teams currently fighting to finish above 500. Every team in this division has a negative score differential. The Chiefs are currently 4-4 and are 1 game up on both the Chargers and Raiders for the division lead. This is a division that can't seem to get a win at home, as they've only compiled 5 home wins up until this point. The Chiefs lead the division, but they have no running game to speak of, as they have no running backs on the roster that have eclipsed the 250-yard mark. Chargers drafted rookie quarterback Broderick Bibbs in the first round, hoping that he could turn this team around, but so far, he's been a turnover machine, and he's compiled only a 61.8 QBR, which sits towards the bottom of the league. The Broncos and the Raiders are the only teams with a running back over 300 yards on the ground this season. However, neither C.J. Anderson or Latavius Murray have reached the 500-yard mark. This division is on pace to end the season with no 100-yard rushers, and when you're that one-sided as a football team and you're passing a lot, the turnovers are going to come. This division really needs to find a rushing attack to balance out their passing attack, and we could see a couple of teams find something down the stretch. Heading over to the NFC East, we see the Giants and Eagles tied atop the division at 5-2, while the Cowboys are just a half game back at 5-3. All these teams have acquired good records despite poor quarterback play as a whole for the division. Carson Wentz is currently the only quarterback in the division with a QBR above 90, and the only one with a positive touchdown to interception ratio. Ezekiel Elliott is a major reason the Cowboys are in the hunt, as Dak Prescott has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league this season. Elliott is carrying this team with almost 600 yards so far on the season, and looks to be having a great sophomore year. When looking at the numbers, it's really hard to find how the Giants have managed to start 5-2, as their quarterback play and running game have both been poor at best. Up until this point, this team really needs to get something going on the season. They have the potential to run away with the division if they can get something going on offense. The NFC North sees the Vikings out front at 6-2, with the Packers just a half game back at 5-2. This division's been putting up good numbers on the offensive side, and it's easy to see why. Every quarterback in the division has a positive touchdown to interception ratio, and every team has a decent running game. They're moving the ball around in many different ways, which makes it really hard to stop. If these teams can continue to limit the turnovers, I could see one of these teams making a deep run come playoff time. Bears rookie quarterback Will Huntington is showing he was definitely worth a first-round pick, as he's been great so far in the season with a 103.5 QBR and a +7 touchdown to interception ratio. The NFC South only has one team above the 500 mark at this point in the season, and that's the Saints. This division's been very bad on offense, and no team has more than 170 points scored on the season. Both the Saints and Falcons have been going between two quarterbacks, and have each gotten away with it from the veteran leadership. They've both gotten away, with starting these rookie quarterbacks, or these young quarterbacks here. But, I think Matt Ryan and Drew Brees are definitely the guys they should have stuck with. We're going to see how this plays out come the end of the season. I really don't think either of these new QBs, whether it be Kevin Hogan or Garrett Grayson, have what it takes to become great starting quarterbacks in the league. But time will tell if this move is going to come back to haunt them as the season progresses. The Falcons have the top wide receiver and top running back in the league, or in the division, sorry. So if they can get something going at quarterback, they both have a shot to make a run at the division lead. Finally, we have the NFC West, which looks like it'll be a one-team race this year as the Rams are in control at 6-2. The Seahawks rivalry with the Rams last season seems pretty weak as the Seahawks barely sit at 500. They haven't been winning their games by a whole lot, and they've been struggling. Outside the Rams, who have been one of the top offensive teams in the division, this division has been awful on offense. No other team has eclipsed 150 points scored yet. The Cardinals and 49ers are both looking to get doubled up as their point differentials are -89 and -124 halfway through the season. Those are just really atrocious numbers. These guys got to figure out what they're doing on offense and learn how to get some stops on defense. Rams wide receiver Tavon Austin right now is my midseason MVP. This guy is contributing every way he can. He's got a punt return for a touchdown. He leads the division in receiving yards. He's got 9 receiving touchdowns, and he even has 13 wide receiver runs on the season for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's going to do it for this week, guys. Everything that I told you, we're going to follow up here on the end of the season. Hopefully some of these playoff races can kind of come down to the wire, and hopefully we'll have some good finishes. I really hope that some of these teams can turn it around. I'd like to see the Cardinals and the 49ers both really kind of dig themselves out of that rut, because no one likes to see other teams doing that bad week in and week out. So I hope some of these guys can turn it around. I hope some of these teams can keep on rolling. I think the AFC the AFC South is a real big division to watch here. So keep an eye on that and that race as the season progresses. Like I said, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Lockdown Podcast. I'm your host, TFA, signing off.